rebound. It's off to Smart for the seventh game. Can have been clipped in, but the buzzer sounded. The light was on. It'll be reviewed.
What up, what up, what up? Welcome into another edition of Green with Envy, where, as you just heard, the Boston Celtics have forced the improbable Game 7 at the TD Garden on Monday night. As always, this is your boy Will. We are checking in. How you doing? How you living? Joining me to talk about the wild ride of emotions that we both shared during last night's Game 6, my best friend, co-host, and the coach of the podcast, the one and only Greg Maneikis. How you doing, my friend?
Bro, you call me the coach of the pod. I'm just a fan right now. I am 100% just a fan. Last night was such an experience. We were able to watch the game together, watch it with our guy Ted Barry that we talk about all the time, our boy JT, and all of our homies down here in Austin. And that was quite the environment, dude. The video that you posted on Twitter says it all, like why I don't have a voice this morning. I have bruises on my body just from us tackling each other.
Yeah.
Like, what a game that was.
It got a little aggressive in the celebration, but completely warranted. A game that, I'm excited to talk about this game, Greg, because the more I think about it, the less it makes sense in so many different ways. From the Celtics kind of being in control, at least from the score standpoint. But as we'll talk about, when you dig into this game, it is the complete opposite of everything that has ever been told to us about this team and how they win games.
Yeah.
It was basically the complete opposite. So with that, I think there's only one way to really do this here. Let's jump in. Let's do a morning box score. Let's cue that up and let's get this going for the people here. Morning box score, the Boston Celtics take down the Miami Heat in Game 6 on the road, 104-103, Game 7, Memorial Day, Monday night at the TD Garden. Going to be electric. I cannot imagine what that crowd is going to look like after a full Memorial Day leading up to that game at an 8:30 tip-off at night. Let's start with the Miami Heat here. Jimmy Butler, 5 of 21 from the field. Did turn it on a little bit in the fourth quarter, got its stuff together, 24 points, 11 rebounds, 8 assists. Caleb Martin just continues to be red hot, 7 of 13, 4 of 8 from 3, 21 points for him. Bam Adebayo,
15 rebounds.
15 rebounds. Did miss that. 15 rebounds, 21 points, 15 rebounds. Yeah, that's pretty insane for Caleb Martin. 15 rebounds. Bam Adebayo also struggled in this game like Jimmy Butler, 4 of 16. He had 13 rebounds, 5 assists, only 11 points, 10 points for Max Strus, 15 points for Gabe Vincent, who I didn't realize shot the ball 18 times last night, 6 of 18 in his return after missing Game 5 with a sore ankle. And then Duncan Robinson, 5 of 11, 13 points for him. Let's go to the Celtics, and let's start with Jason Tatum here. 31 points, 12 rebounds, 5 assists, 15 of 15 from the line. Really big night from Jason Tatum specifically in that first half. Jaylen Brown, 9 of 16 and a massive, and I cannot overstate how massive 8 of 10 from the line from Jaylen Brown is, especially where he's come from in this series. 8 of 10 from the line last night, a huge factor for the Celtics. He also has a double-double, 26 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals. Marcus Smart, another great game for him. One of his best series that he's had in a while, especially the back half of this. 21 points, 4 rebounds. He goes 4 of 11 from 3. And then, of course, you have the hero from the night, Derrick White, 4 of 10 from the field, 3 of 7 from 3. 2 of those threes coming in the fourth quarter. 11 points, 6 assists, 4 rebounds, 3 blocks. And, of course, the game-winning tip-in as time expires. Greg, I said that this game is kind of the inverse of everything the Celtics typically need to win. So I feel like I've done this throughout this postseason run where, what if I told you Celtics would have insert X stat here, this many points in the paint, this many off it, would you feel really good that they got to win, right? Well, here's the opposite of that. If I would have told you last night going into the game, all right, 3-point line, Miami's going to win that 14-7. Only 2 guys on the Celtics made 3-pointers last night, Derrick White and Marcus Smart. Turnovers, Miami, yeah, they're going to win that by 7, too. It's going to be 12-5. And I know you're probably curious, how did Jason Tatum do in the second half scoring the ball? He went 1 of 9 from the field. What would your feelings have been on the chances the Celtics would come away with a victory, just knowing those three things?
I would have said 0.
Yeah,
With
exactly.
this team, dude, with this team, like those are all the key stats. And it just speaks to like the craziness of elimination games that had every bit the feeling of a game 7. I think Miami, they had to leave it up. They needed to win that game. I would be shocked if the Celtics lost game 7, considering how much effort the Heat had to put in to win that game. Even though their stars didn't play well, their stars are exhausted. Bam and Jimmy, Jimmy played 47, Bam played 46 minutes last night. Both of those guys are on tired legs. I mean, they're relying on their role players to get the job done. Duncan Robinson and Caleb Martin were 2 of their most effective guys on the court last night. And if that's going to be the case for the Heat in Boston, like good luck to Miami. I just don't see that happening again. So I felt like Miami really needed to win if they were going to win the series. And I mean, man, the emotions that were just like running through the arena when Derrick White had that tip in, you could just see, like when you see all the different, I forget who posted it, but someone posted like 4 different angles of that play and all the reactions of the crowd, the benches, and just to see how defeated the fans in Miami looked and how defeated the Heat themselves looked. You got to feel good if you're a Celtics fan, if you're a Celtics player, because it's, come back from 3-0, it's historic in itself, but to have the momentum of that last play off of the tip at the buzzer, that's just got to be absolutely soul crushing for
just an ultimate gut punch. I mean, we can speak from our own experience that we were going through it, right? You and I said this just real quick before we hit the record button here. Man, it's crazy how much last night was almost beat for beat game 7 last year when you and I nearly had a breakdown at my house. Taco's super confused as to what's going on. Why are these 2 humans running around in circles and nearly melting down? And then Jimmy pulls up for 3 and misses. Last night, he decides to kind of attack Al Horford more, gets the foul call, ends up at the free throw line and really thought that was it. And so then for Boston to be able to pull it out, to be able to Marcus Smart to get that shot up, which almost went in, which is the other kind of crazy part of that whole scenario is it ended up with a Marcus Smart shot. It almost went in. He played a great game. And then you had White crashing and Tatum crashing from both. So there was a lot of opportunity for that. And the other thing that's really crazy, Greg, that I want to bring up on that last play. So earlier, I don't remember if it was the second or third quarter, but remember there was that Bam Adebayo technical foul. This was in the third quarter.
Course,
there was the technical foul for grabbing the rim. It's insane that Jason Tatum, just even to like grab himself or just thinking that the game doesn't matter anymore or isn't over, that he didn't touch the rim, because that negates everything. Like the way that the angle he was coming in from, the fact that he doesn't touch the rim, that's one of those, like the more you watch it, like, holy shit, that's a really small thing, but a really massive IQ thing that he didn't touch the rim right there.
Yeah, man, that last play is insane. I've watched it probably about 100 times at this point. When I got home from the watch party last night, I just was on Twitter scrolling through, just seeing all different random people. Yeah, I couldn't sleep last night, just watching how, like, the IQ of Derrick White in that play and like the desperation, the instincts, everything that we've said about Derrick White all year, just like the fact that he just knows where to be at all the right times. And for him to make the pass to Smart, space to the corner, crash off the corner, and tip the ball in all within 3 seconds is bananas. I don't even know what to say. I want to watch that play one more time. Can we watch that play one more time?
Cue it up.
White will inbound. It's off to Smart for the 7th game. Could have been tipped in, but the buzzer sounded. The light was on. It'll be reviewed.
I just can't stop. I have such a shit-eating. If you're watching on YouTube, I have a shit-eating grin right now.
Can the podcast just be us watching that like as many times in a row as we can before we run out of things to say about it? Like, I mean, the fact that Miami decides we're going to double Tatum, right? And they leave the most dangerous guy on the court, the inbounder. That's always like a huge no-no, is that you always want to make sure the inbounder is accounted for. And when you watch that play from a different angle, what you see is Bam is on JB in the post, right? So he as White is spacing to the corner, I know Smart like didn't see him. Smart was just like, I'm getting a shot up no matter what. Yeah. Bam was taking a step out to White. So even though White was open, like I think Bam would have probably recovered out to the corner. It would have contested that shot. But the fact that the Miami decided we're going to double Tatum, we're going to leave Derrick White because there's only 3 seconds left. So it's going to be really tough to like make a pass, make another pass, and get a good shot off. Smart probably gets fouled by Gabe Vincent on there. Like Gabe Vincent's definitely in his landing space. The ball goes in and out. As you said, Tatum is crashing hard. Derrick White is just a flash of lightning, as Jaylen Brown said, out of the corner. And then Strus almost blocks the shot at the rim as well. Dude, oh my God, I'm freaking out just thinking about how excited we were in that moment, because seconds before that, I had declared that this was a horrible night.
Yeah.
And then
I mean, it felt like it was crashing down. Like we said, it felt beat for beat that it was game 7 last year, but the Heat were finally going to get the ending that they wanted. Up 10, 4 minutes left. The Heat throw out a little bit of zone, and all of a sudden the Celtics are confused again, and the offense is kind of breaking down defensively. I think it was 101-97, just a massive miscommunication between Al and Marcus. Jimmy goes right to the hoop, gets an and one. It just feels like it's all break. Duncan Robinson has 2 open looks. The one that he had in the left wing after Bam Adebayo got the block on Jason Tatum at the rim on a putback. That was the one that felt like, I think that was 101-100 at that point.
Yeah, let me cue that one up here.
Yeah, if we got that, let's go to that one.
Rejected by Adebayo. Robinson for the lead. Rebound Tatum. Out to Smart.
Yeah. Also, the call, like the fourth quarter Kevin Harlan calls are spectacular in this game.
Yeah.
Like the whole time he's just screaming. And if you watch like the clips of Kevin Harlan, he's like a maestro there. Like the way that he controls his partners, he like when he doesn't want them to say anything, when he knows he
almost holds them back, like you're in a fight, right?
Literally holds them back so that he can say his calls. He's such a great announcer. Stan Reggie, that's another story. But that Duncan Robinson 3, holy shit, man. And the one before that was wide open where he had time to check the laces, and he was, you were saying before we came on that Robinson was getting killed on Twitter and everything, but like he was one of the only reasons that they were actually in the game in the first place. But Duncan Robinson wide open for back-to-back 3-pointers, and he misses both of them. When he missed the first one, you're like, oh, thank God. If he gets another one, he's probably going to make it.
Yeah.
And he missed the second one. So the Celtics just kept getting these little breaks throughout the game where like every time it felt like the Heat were about to do their thing and like finally take control of the game, because we were just hanging on to a 4-point lead to a 7-point lead, and they would always kind of vacillate back between those two, or oscillate back. I don't know what's the right word there. Vacillate, oscillate.
You're the wordsmith.
I think it's oscillate.
If you can't figure it out, then
like a fan, oscillates back and forth. So oscillating back between 4 and 7. Man, and then they take the lead, but let's take a break.
Let's take a break. We'll come back.
Gather our thoughts.
What the plan is here, if you listen to the podcast, you're going to hear a few more clips. We're going to kind of walk through the emotions of some of these big plays here. If you're on YouTube, you're going to get to see the clips. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right, Greg. So we're still finding our way through this journey of what was, I mean, honestly, that's one of the greatest games in NBA history. Like and I'm being a little bit hyperbolic, but that's going to be up there. That's an all-time game that everyone who was watching will remember that game.
If the Celtics win game 7.
I mean, even if they don't, I think this game, I mean, it takes on a different role if the Celtics win game 7, because then it becomes part of the, it's no longer 0 and 150, it's 1 and 150, right? It takes on a different level, but this is still going to be a historic game. This is, I saw someone put this out there, and I think this is pretty good equivalent of it. The Derek Fisher 0.4 shot, right? It feels like it has that type of like, I remember where I was watching that game. I didn't think there was a chance. So, I think what Greg and I are going to try and do here, Greg's got a couple of clips of some really big moments queued up here. So for the YouTube crowd, you're going to see the play here. If you're listening on the podcast feed here, you're going to hear it, but we're going to walk through it, Greg. So let's go through the first play that you got ready to go here.
Well, like I was saying, there were all these moments in the game where the Celtics would step up and make a big play, or the Heat would mess up in a big moment. And the first one I want to draw attention to is Jaylen Brown. Right. So Jaylen Brown goes out with 4 fouls. And this is actually a Joe Mazzulla comment as well. We can talk about how great Joe was in that game. But Jaylen goes out with 4 fouls around the 10-minute mark of the third quarter. And we're talking during the game, and people are asking, like, oh, when do we bring JB back? And I'm like, I don't know that you can bring him back until the fourth, just because he has a tendency to get out of control. He almost had that fifth foul crash into the corner with Bam, right, when he's going for that loose ball. So, like, JB is not the player that I trust to play through 4 fouls, right? But Joe was like, listen, JB's probably been our second best player on the court tonight. And some argument he could have been the best player the way that he was playing on the defensive end as well.
Dude,
And
Jaylen Brown on the offensive glass last night, 5 offensive rebounds, just constantly crashing from that weak side. He had some massive offensive rebounds in that game. I mean, it's the fact that he had a double-double last night. That was huge.
Absolutely. And we put Jaylen back in. The first play that we go back in with Jaylen Brown, we go with Jaylen as the screener, which is scary because if we get a moving screen there on his 5th foul, that just kills me. And Jaylen rolls to the middle. I think he gets Gabe Vincent in a mismatch, and he finishes over the top of him, which is also scary because Gabe Vincent's good at drawing charges. So let's cue that play up.
No question. And the second best player, you said Gabe Vincent. You said it. Brown is barreling into the defense of Vincent and finds the 2, and he's got 15.
Right. In that moment, the Celtics are up 4, 69-65. So that was one of those moments. We're oscillating back between 4 points, 6 points. Like, is this a 2-possession game? Is it a 3-possession game? Like, all these little moments that as fans you're super locked into. Like, oh, if we can play like 90 seconds of great basketball, we could get this to a 5-possession game. Like, let's just do that. And it never really got to that point. I think there was one point where the Celtics got up at like 13 or something like that. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, it was hanging between 4 and 7. And that play was huge.
Well, that was, I mean, like you're saying, and we were saying this in live time, we should be up by more. Like it felt like that classic Celtics game where there's just opportunities being missed. It's great. I'm happy that we're winning because like I said, once again, reading all those stats, this should not a game that the Celtics led for, I don't have it in front of me, but it's probably something like 85 to 90% of the game. The Celtics had the lead. You know, it wasn't until I think Jimmy Butler had a putback on a Duncan Robinson layup that they took a lead, something like 83-82. And that was their first lead since 11-9 earlier in the game. And then they didn't really get it back until Jimmy Butler hit those 3 free throws to go up 103-102. So, you know, this stretch from Jaylen Brown that we're focusing on right now, to your point, number one, Mazzulla deserves a ton of credit. You know, Mazzulla, I think coached a really, really good game last night. I think there's very few things that you can really pick at from a coaching standpoint. And Jaylen Brown really was able to kind of steady the tide in what was the third quarter that had an opportunity to get away from them. You know, Jaylen Brown has 8 points in the quarter, and I think it's the immediacy of him coming back in and getting those, 4 points right away to just, to quote our guy Adam Taylor, who's not here today, I got this, the blue streak in him, right? Mm-hmm. To be able to settle everything down. And so, Jaylen Brown last night, I don't want to say it's an underappreciated double-double, but I think last night was definitely his best game of the series. And it was a really important game because he hit shots that I think settled everybody down at times with his mid-range, being able to take advantage of that Gabe Vincent matchup, which I think from game one has been an area that we've always thought that he should be able to take advantage of more than what has happened in this series. But last night, I think his ability to shoot over Gabe Vincent, do so confidently, and then go to the free throw line and make 8 out of 10 free throws, where we have seen his confidence just completely rocked at different points in this series. You can only hope that that's going to roll over for him as we head to game 7.
Definitely. Yeah, I want to play that second JB bucket in the third quarter. This is also on Gabe Vincent. This is why I have that Jaylen Brown. Reminds me a little bit of T-Mac, right, when he drives left and just pulls up strong. So this is a little shot from Jaylen Brown. This is the 4th point within like the first 90 seconds of him being back in the game with 4 fouls.
They have really got to get the ball in the basket. Brown, the stop and start of the 2. Good shot. Brown hits it. 17 for Jaylen Brown.
Right. In that point, Celtics go up by 8.
Mm-hmm.
That's when it's like, oh, now it's a 3-possession game. Let's go. Celtics got this. How many times did we say last night as we were watching the game? Like, oh, I think the Celtics got this. Like, we just need a couple more plays to go our way. Text to my brother as we're going into the 4th and we're only up 7. And he's like, I guess we got to be happy that we're up 7 going to the fourth quarter right now. And I'm like, I know, dude, like we need to be up 15. It feels like a 15-point game, but this was the difference. Like in game 5, the Celtics made all of those big plays that like kept the Heat at the 12 to 15 mark, right? This game, the Heat had a couple plays that got them over the hump back into a game where if you're Miami, it's all you can ask for is for game to be close going down the stretch, because as they've shown even last night, they're the better team in crunch time.
Yeah, I mean, Jimmy Butler has, who was quiet all night. We talked about him and Bam Adebayo's shooting night, 5 of 21 from Jimmy, 4 of 16. And then once again, this is the part where we look at a lot of times like, all right, how did the stars do? Because a lot of times that's just what it comes down to in the playoffs. And it was clearly advantage Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. But then you get to the fourth quarter and Jimmy Butler finds a way to get 15 of his 24 points in the fourth quarter, getting to that free throw line. And so once again, another part of this that just doesn't quite seem to make sense, how the Celtics walked away with this victory. Like you said, it was this nervous acceptance of, well, a lead's better than not a lead, but I don't like the lead that we have. Like, I think that's the best way to put it. So just a very, very confusing game. Hold on. I think I have one more clip that I wanted to get.
White will inbound. It's off to Smart for the 7th game. Can have been tipped in, but the buzzer sounded. The light was on. It'll be reviewed.
Sorry, I just need to watch that again.
Yeah, it's a good clip to get to. I was wondering which one you're going to pull up, and I was like, I see what you did there. Another big moment as we're going through all these momentum shifts in the game, right? As you mentioned, Jimmy Butler has the putback, and I think they go up 83-82. And it's like, man, what are the Celtics going to do? How are they going to respond here in this moment? And you alluded to this earlier in the pod, but the Bam Adebayo grabbing the rim technical that turns into a 4-point play where Jaylen Brown hits both of the free throws. And we were like, why? First of all, why is Jaylen
technical? That might be the biggest objection to Joe Mazzulla. Did you not realize the technical anyone can shoot? Like, we can't let Jaylen Brown, like, thank God he made it, but we can never let him do that again.
Yeah, so let's pull up that 4-point play, because this is one of the biggest moments of the game.
Set up the offensive rebound by Butler. Robinson just picked up his 2nd foul. Brown twisting. Frees his way into the paint with the foul, and Bam Adebayo is there.
And Marcus, if you're watching that play, Marcus immediately calls out that was a goaltend, that he grabbed the rim. Like, not everybody is locked in that moment, but Marcus saw it because he had the perfect view from it. And the fact that we got the technical, we got the goaltending call because Bam actually blocked the shot, and Jaylen hit the and one because he got fouled on the play as well. Like, what a momentum swing for the Celtics, and they go up by 3 after that because they were down by 1.
And to your point, that puts it right back into that window or that pocket that the Celtics had kind of lived in, right? Miami takes it back, and because it's always in those comebacks, right? Or not comebacks, but just those games where you struggle. Like, man, if we can just crack getting over that hump of 4 points or 3 points or whatever, and that's kind of where Miami had lived throughout the entire games, right? They're not making a run to run away with this game, but we can't quite get over that hump to get under 4 points, 3 points, make it a 1-possession game and take the lead. And then for them to finally do it, have the crowd really into it. Pretty decent crowd last night from Miami, I'll give them that. Like, have them back in it on their sides, and then immediately to have, honestly, it helped probably a little bit that there was a review. It kind of slowed the pace a little bit. And then on top of that, it's a 4-point possession in your, despite your excitement of finally getting over that hump, you're right back really quickly. In one possession, you are right back to where you've been all night, trying to find your way to just get over that hump.
And I think I have the chronology right here. I might be off by a couple possessions here or there. But another big play I want to point out in that fourth quarter, I think it's almost directly after this. Bam Adebayo gets an opportunity for, I think, an offensive rebound putback dunk. And Big Daddy Al comes out of nowhere and stuffs Bam Adebayo at the rim when Bam is just one of those guys. I mean, thinking back to the bubble with that block on Tatum, he's had all these moments at the rim where Bam is the more forceful of the players. And Al Horford steps up huge in this moment and sends that shit back.
Robinson sets up for a 2-point shot. There's a Horford rebound stolen by Lowry. Oh, what a block by Horford on the shot by Adebayo. Brown the other way. No foul. Down he goes. Al Horford.
And that is directly after the 4-point play, right? So
Yeah.
it goes 4-point play, Al Horford block, Jaylen Brown in transition, hits
Back to
2
the
more
free
free
throw line.
throws,
Yep.
right? 88-83. And you're feeling great at that moment. Like, wow, we're getting all these plays, like Al stuffing Bam at the rim. There's no way we are losing this game. And it just continued to kind of go from there. I have a couple more plays that we can pull up here, Will, but what were your thoughts on that?
I mean, once again, like you said, everything was breaking our way, despite the fact that you and I were tracking the stats that we've alluded to here. And we're like, this doesn't add up, man. We know this team inside and out too well. We know this series inside and out too well. Something is going to have to give here, but it just felt like it was all going our way until we get to that about 4.5 minute mark, right? And then it finally started to creep in some of, the bad offensive possessions, a few breakdowns, the just getting tight late. I don't know what it is with this team late. It's really funny because I know when you go back to the regular season, you would think this team feels like they're so bad in close games. Their clutch numbers are actually not bad. Like that's the weirdest part about this. If you dig into their stats, like I think they were technically actually one of the better clutch teams in the NBA. They have a decent clutch rating. They're in the top 10. Like it's really hard to understand how this team operates sometime. But, last night, like you said, during that stretch, it felt like, holy crap, we're going to hold on. Miami, of course, gave us a scare. And then just unbelievable the way it ended up. Let's go to the next clip that you got ready to go here.
Yeah, let's take a quick break. Let's take our last break of the pod, and then we're going to go through the last 2 good moments for the Celtics before all the bad moments, before the best moment.
All right, Greg, let's keep the good times rolling here. What's the next clip you got for us?
Okay, next clip I got here, the man of the night, Derrick White. Okay, with about 5 minutes left, which I think is like a little bit after the plays we just watched. Derrick White hits one of the 7 3-pointers that the Boston Celtics hit in the game last night.
I don't think, hold on, before you cue up this clip, I just don't like, this is going to be a trivia question at some point. I don't know how you're going to word it, but the fact that only Derrick White and Marcus Smart hit threes last night, like, once again, back to the stats I laid out, Greg, what if I told you, 0 of 14 from Al Horford, Jason Tatum, and Jaylen Brown from 3. 0 of 14. Mm-hmm. And the only guys to make threes are Derrick White and Marcus Smart. You can't even make that shit up. I still can't comprehend it, and I'm looking at the numbers directly in my face.
Well, we didn't talk about it, but Brogdon obviously didn't play in the game last night. I think his absence without Brogdon on the court to be that other 45% 3-point shooter, Jaylen Brown getting in foul trouble, where you're like, damn, this is the one thing we couldn't have because we don't have Brogdon tonight. Sam Hauser played 2 minutes in the first half, but you very quickly you saw Joe was like, nah, I got to have my best players on the court. Sam's not one of my best players, sorry. And then Grant had a horrible game last night where
he's had a great series up until last night, but last night was bad. And I think part of that was, was the Spoelstra move of just not playing Cody Zeller and not playing, Kevin Love last. Kevin Love 0 minutes. I think Cody Zeller played 2 minutes or something. 2:21 he played last night. I think that made a big difference because now it leaves, Grant Williams to go chase Max Strus or chase.
Not a good spot.
And that's not his spot. Yeah.
All right. So let's play this Derrick White 3-pointer.
Out of Butler and out of Bayo. Out of Butler and out of Bayo. Screen by Williams, 3 by White. Good! That was a big-time triple, and he's got 9.
Another huge shot right there. Celtics once again up 4. Celtics make a big shot. Derrick White is the man of the hour. Rob Williams, that's a great screen. Miscommunication right there at the top. And Derrick White gets his shot where he's able to walk in off that left-hand dribble into a 3-pointer, which is something that we didn't see much of last year, but the confidence of D White that we saw over the last 6 weeks of the season, that was a shot that we started to see more and more, where White was dancing around the pick and roll and able to pull up off the 3. Huge moment. Celtics go up 7.
So we've talked about Derrick White we've given him, I've made the joke before, giving him so many flowers that my florist ran out. You know what I mean? We talked about him so much on this podcast. We've called him multiple times. He's the 3rd best player on this team this season, subject to change in future years. But this year, there was no doubt he was the 3rd best player. Throughout this postseason, he's been good. He's obviously had some moments. the last parts of this whole series, really, and especially the last couple of games or so, he's made some just permanent marks on this series as to why he's so important to this team. We begged throughout stretches of the season, like, Joe, listen, we know the Jays are going to be out there. Most likely Al's going to be out there in most moments. The other guy that you just unquestionably have to have out there every single night is Derrick White. And last night is an awesome representation of several of those reasons why. You just talked about the not newfound, but it was just different from last year coming over in a trade. It's just difficult that he didn't have, quite the rhythm. But the confidence that we've seen in that 3-point shot and the ways in which he will take that 3-point shot, that last clip was something we never saw last year. Like you said, that was not a part of the Derrick White package. This year, we've seen it plenty of times. This year, he's shooting 55% from 3 in this series. Derrick White has been a different player shooting the ball this entire year. That rolled over into last night, knocking down two of the 7 threes the Celtics hit last night in the fourth quarter. You just showed one of them. And then, of course, that last play, we've talked about this with Derrick White, even going back to last year. His IQ, he's an accentuator. He's a guy that connects everything on this team. You laid it out when we opened the podcast, all the things that Derrick White had to do in that 3-second clip, from inbounding the ball, spacing, crashing, get just tipping it up before Max Strus can get from behind and block that shot. Derrick, that was the full culmination of how special of a Derrick White season there's been. That fourth quarter is just such a great representation of Derrick White this year.
Yeah, and the other guy that hit 3-pointers last night, Marcus Smart, Marcus has gotten a lot of the brunt of criticism this year because Derrick White's been so good and like somebody has to come off the court in crunch time. Obviously, Celtics fans love and trust Marcus Smart, but we have a complicated relationship with Marcus Smart and some of the decision makings that he makes. And the fact that Marcus Smart was the one to shoot that 3-pointer last night, I'm sure a lot of Celtics fans were thinking like, oh, like fucking obviously Marcus is the one to shoot that shot. But
if there was a way to live bet who was taking that last shot, like Marcus Smart, they would have had to give him negative odds, and you couldn't have got positive odds on that.
Oh yeah, I mean, and that's the thing about Marcus, right? As much as you want to criticize the guy, he's never afraid of a big moment. And Marcus had a huge moment a little bit earlier in the fourth quarter where he drives on Duncan Robinson, maybe gets away with a little bit of an offensive foul, finishes the and one. And the Celtics, I think at this point, go up 10. And this is where we all look at each other and we're like, we're up 10 with like 4 minutes left. There's no way we can lose this game.
Tatum's been tearing him up, as has Smart. Robinson awakes, defends him, inside. Smart! What a play! Marcus Smart dives for 2 and a foul.
Marcus Smart, love and trust, man. And the great thing about having Duncan Robinson on the court is that he's a target out there, right? Max Strus can't really go at Max Strus just because he's a little bit more of a physical defender. He moves his feet a little better than Robinson. Anytime the Celtics had the opportunity to go at Duncan Robinson, I felt like they did a pretty good job of trying to do that, which is why Spoelstra ended up going zone over the last 4 or 5 minutes of the game, because he realized that he cannot play man-to-man with Duncan Robinson on the court, but Duncan Robinson needed to be on the court because he was so effective on the offensive end. But that at that point in the game, Will, I think it was 5 minutes left. We're thinking we're good. There's no way the Celtics blow this. Like, the Heat have had their moments, they had their chances, and they just weren't going to get over the hill. But then the bad stuff starts to happen. You ready to get into the bad stuff?
Yeah, let's talk about it, because I think that's going to set us up to then talk about game 7, right? Because then we have to kind of figure out, because like that's the other crazy part. There's another game. Like last night had every feel of an elimination game. And I agree with what you said earlier, Greg. It felt like it feels like Miami has known, like once they didn't sweep, this was kind of their game. And I think they even approached that a little bit in game 5, the way that, Gabe Vincent, it seems like if that was an elimination game, he probably would have played. They rested. They just basically, they didn't quit, but they left everybody on the bench with, down 12 to 15 points in the fourth quarter to rest up for this game. You talked about how, Jimmy and Bam play 46, 47 minutes last night, basically just don't leave the court. Like that felt like they were all in on this game. So the fact that there's still another game is almost, it's like, it's hard to fathom. Right. So,
yeah.
So I think talking about what went wrong will lead us into game 7. But yeah, like you said, we get up 10 with about 4.5 minutes left. Cue up game 7 last year. It really felt like it. the Celtics, they get stagnant. They start slowing the pace a little bit. The zone throws them off. They're not getting the looks that they need. I think initially when they went to that zone, and correct me if I'm wrong here, I think Rob was in the game. And then Mazzulla, to his credit, does make the Al switch at one of the upcoming free throws to get that back in. But it was just really hard for the Celtics to get good looks. And then, Miami started making some plays. Jimmy Butler got to the free throw line. I'm going to pull this up here real quick. I think he got to the free throw line 10 times in the fourth quarter. Yeah, Jimmy Butler scored 15 points in the fourth quarter. 10 times he got to the free throw line, 8 of those points coming from that area. And so, Miami, God damn, was that scary last night as they were starting to make that comeback in the last 4 minutes.
Yeah, let's get into some of Butler's moments, because Jimmy obviously had a terrible game up until the fourth quarter. The Celtics were completely in his head. He didn't want the ball. Didn't want to attack the rim. Rob Williams was giving him fits. Derrick White blocked his shot. Like, all these things that Jimmy, like, when we look at him, we see the stuff that he did to Drew Holiday in the Buck series. That was a fresh Jimmy Butler. This is a Jimmy Butler that's had to carry a team for 3 rounds, and the weight of not having Tyler Hero and not having another guy that can just go out and create their own shot, with the Celtics having figured out Bam at the nail, like Bam against Al Horford at the nail at the beginning of the series. I was like, I don't want that matchup. Now Al looks at Bam's like, I figured him out. Same thing he said about Joel Embiid in the last series. He was like, just give me a few games and I'll figure this guy out. He's that smart on the defensive end. But one of the big moments here, Celtics, I think, are up 10 at this point. Jimmy Butler, by all means, Jimmy, shoot 3-pointers. He decides to shoot a 3-pointer, step back on Marcus Smart. And I think this starts the Jimmy Butler show down the stretch.
7-point game, approaching 2 to play. Butler with a long shot of 3. Jimmy Butler just canned a 3. 17 for him.
When Jimmy Butler hit that 3 to get the game back to 4, it was a 7-point game, gets it back to 4. As we said, it was like, hey, oscillating between those two numbers. They run that little action. Jimmy Butler sets the screen, a little ghost screen action, spaces out to the corner. I think it was Robinson made the good pass to him, and Smart lets Jimmy take a rhythm dribble into a corner 3. Where if there's any 3-pointer, I feel a little bit worried about Jimmy Butler taking, it's a corner 3, because he doesn't have great range. The corner 3 is a little bit shorter, and anytime Jimmy can get a rhythm into a shot and get his legs into it, you got to feel good about that. And at that point, 2 minutes left, crowd's going crazy. I'm freaking out. We're all looking at each other like, damn, are we really about to lose this game? Like, is this really about to happen?
And especially Jimmy going to his right. That's kind of his go-to. I mean, you saw him trying desperately to get that shot at the end of the game. That's the shot that Al Horford fouled him on, where he was just everything he was doing was built on him going right to get that momentum, like you said, to get to that corner, to get the ability to have enough space to jump up and get that shot off. That, I mean, what he did in that clip you just showed was realistically what he was trying to do, in that final shot where he gets fouled. And, when Jimmy hit that 3 in the clip that we just watched here, that's when it really kind of hit me personally, where I was like, oh my God, I think this might happen. I think that they might pull this off here. Like, Jimmy just has this aura about him where, and, I was talking to, I remember someone had asked me about Jimmy Butler, like, oh, he doesn't really have it. I'm like, I don't know, man. We're leaving this game within range of him just needing to have 3 possessions. Jimmy Butler will forever have 3 possessions in him to just convince himself that it doesn't matter that I'm 3 for 19 right now. All I have to do is go 2 for 2 and we win this game. And he's got that in him. He's got the ability to draw fouls. He's a master at getting to the free throw line. He's been one of the best guys in the NBA over the last couple of years of doing that. And so that was the moment for me where it really set in, because 7 points, you still feel like, all right, as long as we can keep, this is a safe distance for how much time's left. Once Jimmy hit that shot, momentum was swinging, the offense was confused. That's when I felt probably the most internal panic for myself.
Definitely. And to your point earlier about how this was like reliving Game 7 from last year, there's that huge moment, obviously, at the end of Game 7 last year where Jimmy Butler is in transition, sees Al Horford in front of him, and decides to pull up 4-3 off a right-handed dribble in rhythm. And a lot of people are like, oh, he probably should have drove it out. In this game, he gets the same opportunity. He sees Al Horford in front of him. Not the exact same opportunity, but he has he can dance with Al Horford or he can drive at Al Horford. He decides to drive at Al Horford. Another bad moment for Al here with a foul. Jimmy Butler and one, and the game gets closer.
4-point game less than a minute to go. Butler hatchets his way inside.
Jimmy learned his lesson. I mean, watching it back now, that's even like closer to exactly what happened last year.
Yeah.
He's wide open on the right wing where he could have pulled that three after just having hit that previous three. We were thinking like, oh, he's feeling it. But he drives right at Al Horford. Horford tries to reach, and Jimmy gets the and one and hits the free throw. It's a 1-point game.
Yeah, not a great stretch at the end for Al. Obviously, we highlighted the block that he had. Al's always got to have like a few moments, but nearly the scapegoat last night, Al Horford, between the play that we just showed there, which also was a bit on Marcus Smart, definitely a miscommunication across the board as Jimmy just got a wide open lane to go steamrolling down. And then, of course, the last play in which maybe there was a double dribble. I don't know what your interpretation on that was. I know that's kind of like, I feel like I've seen both sides of it and I could kind of see it either way, but definitively, it was an Al Horford foul that nearly cost us the game. And it was almost a rough night to have Al Horford grilling as our victory picture.
Yeah. And then, we talked about the Duncan Robinson second missed 3-pointer, but like almost directly after that, where it's a 1-point game, the and one, Duncan Robinson gets an opportunity. I'm going to pull that up here because this is where finally I could breathe a little bit before the end where I couldn't breathe at all, where I was like, oh, Duncan Robinson missed that wide open three. We're so lucky. We still might somehow win this game.
Robinson for the tie. Smart's got it.
So that was my chronology off just a little bit. That was actually right before the Jimmy Butler play. But, the fact that they were down 3 in that moment, I think, what was it? Smart got fouled and only hit 1 out of 2 free throws.
Yeah, hit 1 out of 2 to make it 102-100. But yeah, just watching that back right now, the fact that Duncan Robinson has a chance to take a free throw dribble and then get into check the laces, and then you add in the play after that he misses off on the left wing off the Bam block in transition. God, and like we said, Duncan Robinson, he scored 10 points in the fourth quarter. Duncan Robinson got off the bounce, and one of the putback to go 83-82 was created off of Duncan Robinson penetration on a missed layup that gave Jimmy the opportunity to go get that rebound. So yeah, looking back, I can't, especially the series that Duncan Robinson's having, the way that Miami's gone about trying to get wins, it almost, not from our perspective, but from, obviously Miami perspective, that would have been poetry for it to end with a few Jimmy Butler plays, but ultimately one of these unheralded role guys stepping up and hitting a dagger. So the fact that the Celtics escaped that is, they're certainly lucky. And here's the thing: last night, listening to some of the Celtics, obviously they're overjoyed with how this game goes, but there also was a self-realization in a lot of their answers that, hey, listen, you get a win however you can when it's the postseason, when it's the Eastern Conference Finals. But we got lucky. We got lucky that the Heat didn't get this game for all the reasons that we're talking about, and including these 2 Duncan Robinson misses.
Absolutely. And I got to get out of here. So let's do a quick game seven predictions, and then we'll play people out with some sweet, sweet music that was just released last night.
Okay, but before we do that,
White will inbound. It's off to Smart for the 7th game. Can have been tipped in, but the buzzer sounded. The light was on. It'll be reviewed.
We have the same brain. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay.
Game 7. What you got?
So game 7, Monday night, gonna be what should be an electric atmosphere in the TD Garden. I think the first thing that, you brought it up, the Brogdon injury certainly came to fruition last night. When you look at the 3-point shooting, when you look at the breakdown of scoring, I told you when we met up, one of, whether it's Marcus, Al, Derrick, somebody's got to go for more than 15. Marcus Smart did that last night. Derrick White stepped up in the clutch. We'll have to see what Brogdon's status is. And the other thing that we didn't really touch on, but I do think is noteworthy, is something was going on with Rob's left arm or left wrist or whatever it might be. that's something to keep an eye on because, we've said the Celtics have 7 starters. Well, maybe they're down 2, or maybe there's 2 that aren't fully healthy. We know the Heat are banged up, but that's just from a Celtics perspective, something that kind of could change what it looks like for the Celtics. But I think as we look to game 7, we didn't really talk much about Jason Tatum in this game. Jason Tatum was unbelievably special in that first half. Last night, I'm pulling up the stat here. Most 30, 10, and 5 games in a single postseason in NBA history. LeBron James, 2018, had 7 of them. Last night, Jason Tatum just joined him. We're still in the Eastern Conference Finals right now. 7 games of 30, 10, and 5. His ability to impact the game and even going 1 of 9 in the second half still felt like he was an impactful player in that second half with his defense, with his facilitation. I think so. I think my point being, when it gets to game 7, I'm looking at this being a Jason Tatum game. Obviously, a little bias having been there for the last Jason Tatum game 7, in which he dropped 51 points. I don't know if that's what's coming, but it feels like Tatum is seizing the moment. Also based off some of it, just the way that he's internalizing some of his comments from last night in the post game. I'm looking at game 7. I'm nervous about the Rob Williams, Malcolm Brogdon factor with their injuries. I think Spo's going to throw a lot of zone out there. I think there's going to be a lot more. I was actually surprised that we didn't really see it until late, that I thought it would be mixed in a little bit more by Spo. I would fully expect to see a lot more of that because I think he's going to run with a similar lineup. Very little to no Kevin Love and Cody Zeller in game 7. And so I think at different times he's going to feel compelled to do that. How the Celtics react to that zone could ultimately determine what happens in game 7. But I'm riding with Jason Tatum in a game 7 at home. What are you thinking? Or how are you feeling?
I feel pretty much exactly the same, except I think the Celtics, I think this is very similar to Celtics Lakers in 2008, game 6 in Boston, where it just was too much. The wave of emotion from the crowd, the Celtics having all this momentum coming off of 3 straight victories and that heartbreaking loss for the Heat. I think the Boston Celtics take care of business in game 7. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown step up. I think the 3-pointers go down. And I hopefully by the 4th quarter, like halfway through the 4th quarter, the starters are out. We're feeling good. Miami, well, the starters probably won't be out because it's Joe.
Yeah, but it's game 7. I would just leave them on the court, which I think it is what it is.
Hopefully we get some Geno time. And with that, Will, because I have to get out of here, we're going to play people out with some new music released last night, actually, if you so have it, from a new artist down here in Texas. Well, he spent some time in Texas, in San Antonio, and this is a game winner from Derrick White.
White will inbound. It's off to Smart for the 7th game.